Lila stared at her phone screen in utter horror as the message she'd intended for her best friend Sarah had gone to the last person she ever wanted to contact again. Hey, emergency here. Emma is refusing the formula, and I can't afford the special milk the doctor recommended. Do you have any leftover breast milk or know where I can get some fast? Desperate single mom here. The realization hit like a truck. That number was Brinley's, saved from 3 years ago when their secret relationship had ended in tears and accusations of cowardice on Lila's part. She scrambled to delete it, but it was too late. The read receipt popped up immediately. Before she could even type an apology, her doorbell rang. Heart-pounding, Lila opened the door to find Brinley Voss, the self-made tech billionaire, whose face graced magazine covers, standing there in a tailored black suit, her dark hair perfectly styled, holding a large cooler in one hand and a designer diaper bag in the other. Brinley's eyes locked onto hers with a mixture of determination and something softer, something that made Lila's knees weak. I got your message, Lila. And I brought everything you need for little Emma. But I'm not just here to drop off supplies. I want to be a mother with you, sis. Let me help raise her. Let us do this together. The words hung in the air like a bomb, shocking Lila into silence as Emma fussed in her arms. Brinley stepped inside without waiting for an invitation, setting the cooler on the worn kitchen counter and pulling out bottles of premium organic formula, along with fresh breast milk from a donor service she must have arranged in the 20 minutes since the text. Lila closed the door, her mind racing through every possible escape, but the baby was crying and the rent was due, and the adoption agency had warned her that any instability could trigger a review. She watched Brinley warm a bottle with practiced ease, the same woman who had once whispered promises of forever, now moving through her tiny apartment like she belonged there. Why are you really here, Brinley? Lila finally asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Brinley turned, her expression softening as she tested the milk on her wrist. Because 3 years ago you walked away to protect your family, and I let you. I built an empire, but every night I wondered, what if? Your text was a sign, Lila. I'm not asking for anything you don't want to give, but Emma deserves 2 parents who love her, and I still love you. Lila felt the old ache return, the one shed buried under long hours at the social services office and endless paperwork for the adoption. Her Vietnamese American parents had made it clear after she came out at 25 that any relationship with a woman would mean losing them forever. She had chosen silence, hidden her truth, dated men for show, and finally adopted Emma alone to prove she could build a family without them knowing the full story. Now here was Brinley offering the very thing Lila had convinced herself she didn't need. The evening stretched as Brinley fed Emma, rocking her gently while Lila sat across the room, arms wrapped around her knees. They talked in low voices about the years apart, Brinley's rise in tech after founding a sustainable energy startup that made her a billionaire at 25, Lila's quiet battle with postpartum depression after the adoption, and the constant fear that one wrong move would send social workers knocking. Brinley didn't push, but her presence filled the small space with a warmth Lila had forgotten existed. When Emma finally slept, Brinley stood to leave, but paused at the door. I'll be back tomorrow with more if you need it. No strings, Lila. Just help. Lila nodded numbly, closing the door and leaning against it as tears slipped down her cheeks. She had sent one wrong text, and now the woman she had once loved more than anything was offering to rewrite her entire life. The question burned in her chest: was this salvation, or the beginning of everything falling apart? The next morning, Brinley arrived exactly at 9 with a car seat still in its packaging and a stack of documents from the best pediatrician in Chicago. Lila had barely slept, replaying every word from the night before. Emma cooed happily in Brinley's arms as the billionaire demonstrated proper latch technique for the new bottles, her voice calm and confident. Lila watched from the kitchen, feeling a strange mix of gratitude and resentment. Part of her wanted to slam the door and reclaim her hard-won independence, the independence she had fought for after her parents cut her off financially when they suspected she was gay. But Emma had slept through the night for the first time in weeks, and that fact alone made Lila bite her tongue. They spent the day together, Brinley helping organize the cluttered living room while Lila handled work calls from her laptop. Conversation flowed easier than expected, Brinley sharing stories of boardroom battles where investors questioned her youth and single status, Lila admitting how lonely the adoption process had been with no one to celebrate the court date. By afternoon, Brinley was cooking a simple stir-fry in Lila's tiny kitchen, their shoulders brushing as they moved around each other. It felt dangerously domestic. Then Lila's phone rang, her mother's name flashing on the screen. She stepped into the bedroom to answer, bracing herself. Her mother launched straight in. Your cousin Mai is getting married next month and she asked if you would bring a date. A nice man, Lila. Someone stable. We worry about you alone with that baby. The adoption was brave, but a child needs a father. Lila closed her eyes, the familiar guilt twisting in her gut. She lied smoothly as always, saying she was seeing someone but keeping details vague. When she hung up, Brinley was standing in the doorway, arms crossed. I heard enough. Your family still doesn't know. Lila shook her head, sinking onto the bed. They never will. If they found out about us, about me, it would destroy them. My father had a heart attack last year. I can't be the reason he has another. Brinley sat beside her, taking Lila's hand. And what about you? What about Emma growing up thinking love is something to hide? Lila pulled away, standing to pace. You don't understand, Brinley. You have money, you can buy privacy. I have social workers who could take Emma away if they decide a single lesbian mom isn't fit. The day dragged into evening, with Brinley leaving again, but not before promising to return for Emma's doctor appointment. Alone, Lila rocked her daughter, whispering promises to protect her at all costs. Yet as she lay in bed that night, the memory of Brinley's touch lingered, and for the first time in years, Lila allowed herself to imagine a different future, one where she didn't have to choose between family and love. The conflict tore at her. How could accepting help from the woman who once broke her feel so right and so dangerous at the same time? By the end of the week, Brinley had become a fixture in their lives, dropping by after board meetings with groceries and new outfits for Emma. Lila found herself laughing more, smiling at Brinley's terrible dad jokes, and allowing small touches, a hand on her shoulder, a shared glance over the baby's head. But the fragile peace shattered on Thursday when Lila's sister Lynn showed up unannounced, carrying a bag of homemade pho. Lynn froze in the doorway, seeing Brinley on the couch with Emma asleep on her chest. You, Lila, what is this? Lynn demanded, her voice rising. Brinley stood, carefully handing the baby to Lila. I'll give you space. She left, but the damage was done. Lynn turned on Lila. Mom and Dad suspected something years ago when you stopped bringing boys home. I covered for you, but this billionaire woman with our niece. Are you insane? They will disown you completely and fight for custody of Emma. Lila felt the floor tilt. Lynn had always been the good daughter, the one who married the approved man and produced grandchildren. Now her eyes held betrayal. You promised after college you would live right. For the family. Lila argued back, tears burning. This isn't about you. Emma needs stability, and Brinley is offering that without asking me to change who I am. But Lynn wasn't listening. She left, slamming the door, and Lila knew the call to their parents would come within the hour. That night, Brinley returned despite the tension. They sat on the tiny balcony overlooking the city lights, Brinley listening as Lila poured out the years of hiding, the forced dates, the prayers at family gatherings, begging God to make her normal. Brinley shared her own scars growing up in foster care before building her empire alone, always the outsider in rooms full of old money men who whispered about her sexuality. Their hands found each other, and for a moment the world narrowed to just them. The next morning, Lila's father called, his voice cold. Come home this weekend. We need to talk about your choices. Bring the baby. No strangers. Lila hung up, shaking. Brinley pulled her into a hug. I'll be here whatever you decide. But the pressure was mounting. Lila's job supervisor had already hinted at complaints from conservative clients, and now family was mobilizing. Lila lay awake, wondering if love was worth the cost of losing everything she had built alone. The weekend visit to her parents' house in the suburbs became a battlefield. Lila arrived with Emma dressed in the simple clothes. Her mother approved of Brinley waiting in the car 2 blocks away as promised. The conversation started polite, her mother serving tea and asking about the baby's health. Then her father spoke. We heard from Lynn. Is it true you are seeing that woman again, the one from before? Lila nodded, unable to lie anymore. Her mother gasped, clutching her chest. After all we sacrificed for you, the move from Vietnam, the American dream. You choose this sin over your family. They laid out their ultimatum: attend church counseling, date the son of their pastor, or lose all contact and any financial help for Emma's future. Lila left in tears, driving straight to Brinley's penthouse for the first time. Brinley opened the door, took one look, and pulled her inside. They talked for hours, Brinley canceling meetings to hold Lila while she cried. That night they shared their first kiss in 3 years, tentative and full of years of longing. It wasn't passion that drove them, but a deep recognition that hiding had cost them both too much. The following week brought new storms. A co-worker at the agency overheard Lila on the phone with Brinley, and the rumors spread. Clients pulled out citing family values. Brinley faced her own backlash when a tabloid snapped photos of her leaving Lila's apartment. Headlines screamed tech billionaire in secret lesbian romance with single mom. Brinley's board called an emergency meeting questioning if her personal life affected the company image. She stood firm, telling them love wasn't a liability. Lila watched from afar, admiring Brinley's strength, but feeling the weight of being the reason for it all. One evening over dinner, Brinley proposed they make it official, move in together, present a united front. Lila hesitated, the moral question gnawing at her. Was she using Brinley for stability, or was this real? The doubt festered until Brinley sensed it and pulled back slightly, giving space. The distance hurt more than Lila expected, proving her feelings ran deeper than fear. Yet societal eyes were everywhere, whispers at the grocery store, judgmental stares from neighbors. Lila began to question if their love could survive the storm, or if she was dooming Emma to a life of scrutiny. The betrayal came from the least expected place: Brinley's longtime assistant Marcus, who had been like a brother to her. He leaked details to the press, framing the relationship as a publicity stunt that risked the company's ethical standards. The story exploded. Lila woke to reporters outside her apartment, and a call from the adoption agency demanding a home visit. Brinley arrived furious, confronting Marcus, who admitted he did it to protect her from what he called a distraction that would tank stock prices. Brinley fired him on the spot, but the damage was done. Lila accused her in a heated argument. You promised no strings, but your world is swallowing mine. Maybe this was a mistake. Brinley didn't defend herself, just looked heartbroken. I chose you over everything, Lila. My company, my reputation. If that's not enough, I don't know what is. They separated for 3 days, Lila handling the agency visit alone, lying through her teeth about the nature of her friendship with Brinley. Emma sensed the tension, crying more than usual. On the third night, Brinley showed up at the door, rain-soaked and exhausted. I can't do this without you. But I won't force it. Tell me to leave and I will. Lila pulled her inside the fight, draining away into quiet tears. They talked through the night, unpacking every fear, the moral cost of choosing each other, the possibility that family and society were right, that a child needed conventional stability. Brinley admitted her own doubts, wondering if her wealth made her pushy. By dawn they had reached a fragile understanding. Love required sacrifice, but so did loneliness. The crisis peaked when Lila's parents arrived, with Lynn demanding to take Emma for a while to give Lila space to think clearly. The confrontation in the living room was brutal, her father quoting scripture, her mother crying about lost honor. Brinley stood beside Lila, quietly strong, until Lila finally spoke. This is my family now. Emma stays with me. The door closed on her parents' faces and Lila collapsed into Brinley's arms, knowing she had crossed a line there was no returning from. Months passed in a blur of court dates, media scrutiny, and quiet nights where Brinley and Lila rebuilt trust, one conversation at a time. Brinley sold a portion of her company to step back from the spotlight, creating a foundation for LGBTQ families that funded Lila's work at the agency. Lila slowly introduced Brinley to a few trusted friends, and began therapy to process the guilt of choosing love over blood. Emma thrived with 2 mothers who read her bedtime stories, and argued over whose turn it was to change diapers. The final test came at Emma's first birthday party, small and private, until Lila's mother showed up alone. She didn't speak to Brinley at first, just watched them interact the easy way. Brinley made Emma laugh, the protective arm Lila kept around her partner's waist. At the end of the afternoon, her mother pulled Lila aside. I don't understand it. But I see you are happy. And the baby is loved. That is more than I had at your age. It wasn't full acceptance, but it was a crack in the wall. Brinley and Lila stood on the balcony later, watching the city lights, Brinley slipping a simple ring onto Lila's finger, not a proposal, but a promise. We did this together. Whatever comes next, we face it side by side. Lila leaned into her, the weight of every sacrifice, every doubt finally lifting. Their story wasn't perfect, but it was theirs, built on choices that hurt and healed in equal measure. In the end, Lila had paid the price of family estrangement and public judgment, but gained a partner who saw her fully, and a family defined by love, not approval. As Emma slept peacefully inside, the question lingered for anyone watching their journey: was Lila right to embrace this controversial love, an unconventional family, despite destroying old ties and risking everything? Or should she have walked away to preserve a conventional life free from societal judgment and family pain?